Okay, so I just had like a really terrible day where I just like felt really bad about myself. I was having terrible body image the whole day, and Maddie was over. I was like talking through it with her, like because I had this whole candida thing and I gained like 25 pounds and like all my self-worth is like gone and I hate myself and all this stuff, and I was trying to like think where did it come from, because I was feeling so good and I've been feeling so good, and then I realized what it was. This morning I went through my closet and I got rid of clothes, just things that I feel like don't like fit my vibe, and this fucking dress. This dress is like from fucking Forever 21, like 5-6 years ago. This used to be my favorite dress. Like not even really cute, but it's tiny and I used to wear it all the time. And so this is like my goal dress. Like once I fit into this dress, I'll be happy, everything will be great, and I'll love myself. Everything will be perfect once I fit into this fucking dress. So I hung this dress up. All of a sudden, my day was ruined. I felt depressed, I hated myself. Night and day, I was like dancing in the kitchen in my underwear, and then I saw this dress and then I hated myself. So, Maddie came up with the amazing plan that we should cut the fuck out of this dress. So, we're gonna cut the fuck out of this dress. Bye-bye.
Great.
I wish we could hang it like on a, like,
we should hang it on a hanger.
Hung.
Oh yeah, like on a, like a noose. I just was feeling it. Oh shit, it's working like really well. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Should we burn it now? Or is this enough? They gave her sausage and they're like, fuck.
Peace out, bitches! God.
Peace.
This is for every girl that's ever had a piece of clothing that made her feel like shit. Fucking rip that shit up. And this day really turned into something that me and Maddie did not expect.
Got really aggressive.
Shit just got so aggressive. She was coming over so we could do a hair tutorial, which we're still gonna do. And then I just was talking about how much I hated myself because I couldn't fit in this stupid goddamn dress. And it just made us think like, no. We had this like 2-hour long conversation about how like if a boy breaks up with you or a girl breaks up with you, like you're able to be like, you know what, I still love myself, like I'm okay. You gain 5 pounds and you're like, this is the end of the world. I hate myself. That cannot be how we live our lives anymore. We have to change that mindset, and I don't know how to do it. I haven't done it yet for myself, but I think this was a good first step. So if any of you are suffering from body image issues, or you have that one piece of clothing just makes you feel less than, cut that shit up, burn it, get it out of here. It's not you, it doesn't define you, it doesn't define your value, and it's not worth wasting your energy on, because you are beautiful and perfect just the way you are. Comments?
Get rid of that shit. It does not define you, and if you keep it, it's gonna keep defining you. It's just how it's gonna be. We're a little bit psycho,
yeah,
and I promise you, if you do this, it feels so fucking good.
Get rid of anything in your life that's not serving you and makes you feel less than, because you were born a perfect, beautiful human being, and you are nothing but a fucking piece of stardust that actualized itself in the world. So you're magic, and that dress was fucking bullshit. Once I fit into it, I was just gonna throw it away. I mean, I was just gonna donate it. Like, I didn't even want it. Yeah, I wasn't gonna wear it. It's not even my style. But it's just because, like, that would have made me feel so good about myself to fit into it that I was willing to keep it just to fit into it to then give it away. Do you know, this morning when I was watching all TED Talks about body image?
Yeah.
There was, do you know Pro Anna?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I used to follow all those. I followed all of them. Like, that was like low-key my religion.
Wow.
I
didn't know that was a thing.
I followed all their tips.
Let's look it up. My Pro Anna.
Same time, like, and like, instead of like people telling you, I basically like shut myself in my room and I didn't talk to any of my friends because I was just talking to all my friends on like Tumblr, on my like Pro Anna sites, and like we would just message each other. I don't think I even was that into it. Like, I was just like the surface of it. But you know, like, you would post like progress pictures and girls would be like, wow, like, you look so good, like, tell me how you're doing it. It was like to the point where you'd be like, so what are your tips? And it was like, well, turn your air conditioning on full high, because like if you just sleep without any covers, and you sleep with your room at like 55 degrees at night, like you end up burning like a lot more weight because your body has to like produce all this warmth or whatever.
Holy shit.
Yeah, just like crazy little things, and every little detail, which in reality probably just made no fucking difference compared to how much you suffered from it.
Oh yeah.
Like probably did nothing like you would just do.
Yeah, I mean, I've never done a vlog about my eating disorder, so let's just get into it because we're getting into it anyways.
Yeah.
So I've never talked about my eating disorder publicly online. Since we just had this big thing, I'll just get into it. I struggled with an eating disorder for probably from the age of 17 to like 23. If you had an eating disorder, it's something that's kind of like a drug addiction. Like you always will, it'll always be something that you deal with. You're never fully recovered. I haven't like relapsed or whatever for like a good number of years, but obviously I still have days where I literally hate myself because I can't fit in a dress, which is eating disorder, you know, tendencies and things. My history of it was like, I remember when I was, I think like 10 or 11 in 5th grade, it was 4th of July and I came downstairs and I was wearing this outfit and I thought I looked like so cute. And my mom is very thin. She's always been like very thin. And I came downstairs and she was like commenting about how she looked fat that day. And I looked in the mirror and I was like 11, you know, like I had a little belly. My whole life I always grew like, I was born a super skinny baby and then I got like pudgy and then I got super skinny again and then pudgy and then super skinny and that's how I always grew. Like that was like how I grew. So I think I was going through one of my like just a little pudgier phases before I would like grow super fast. And I would have these years where my limbs were like so skinny and I was so long and like so tall and I would just freak out. I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh my god, if my mom's fat, then I'm definitely fat. Because like my stomach looks bigger than her stomach.
Yeah.
And I'm younger than her. So that's really bad. It's like I don't want to blame it on society or my parents or anything like that. I mean, I did grow up in a household where like the word fat was thrown around a lot. So I think that my kind of what I thought defined being a successful person was like being thin. I'm naturally more curvier than my mom, not just because I got that from my dad's side of the family, which they're way more curvy and voluptuous. They have big boobs and they have butts and all this stuff, and my mom's side is like very thin, all of them. And so my brothers got my mom's side of the genes, so they're very thin and tall, and I'm also thin and tall, but I have a butt and I have boobs and I'm more like feminine or womanly or whatever. But since I didn't look like the other female representation of what a woman should look like in my life, I always thought there was something wrong with me. That's not like anyone else's fault, and me and Maddie were talking about this before. Like, I think you choose to see in society what you are already thinking or dealing with within yourself. And I think I obviously was dealing with some self-love issues from a very young age for whatever reason. And so when I looked out into society, like I didn't see a society that loved who I was, but that was only because I didn't love who I was. That from that moment on, I started thinking about my weight. I was a very active child. I danced, I played like every single sport until I realized I wasn't good at any of them except for softball. I was good at softball. So it's always pretty thin just because I was so active. But I remember one day in like sophomore year of high school, like me and my friend Danny, she's very thin. Like people used to like call her anorexic just because she was so thin, but she's not. Like she has a great body image and she's like amazingly healthy that way. But we used to wear the same clothes all the time, and then one time I remember it was like summer, we were looking down and we were both sitting next to each other, and I had shorts on and she had shorts on, and I looked and for the first time my legs were bigger than her legs.
Comparison?
Yeah. We were friends since we were 11, and now about this time we were like 16 or something, and I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Like, that's a problem. I remember I went home and I asked my mom, how do you lose weight? And she was like, she taught me how to count calories. She started taking me on runs, and of course I'm a 15-16-year-old girl. I lost 10 pounds in like a week. I never like went on runs. I hated running, and I went on runs with her, and I lost all the weight, and people just, the comments started coming in. My ego was boosted, and oh my god, you look so good. Like, my self-worth grew, and I was like, oh well, if people love me so much now, like I'll just keep losing more weight.
This is easy. Imagine if I just keep doing it.
Yeah, I'll just keep doing it, and I'll get more intense. If it's all just a numbers game, oh, I'll just eat less. And it just kept going until I finally got to a point where I was 113 pounds and I was 5'10". So yeah, that was scary. I remember I got on the scale and I saw the number and I actually started crying because it was so low. It was lower than Danny at the time, who was 5'7". And she was like 18 pounds or 16 pounds. That's when I knew I had a huge problem, but still I didn't deal with that. I still remained anorexic for probably I was anorexic probably for 2 years, and then I lost my period, so my mom brought me to the gynecologist and got me birth control, which made me start gaining weight. So then I became bulimic.
Oh, fuck.
Because then I knew that people were going to notice if I wasn't eating. No one talked about my eating disorder in my family. It was like everyone knew it was happening, but they just chose to not acknowledge it. I remember one time when we came back from the gynecologist, I was severely underweight, and the gynecologist told my mom this. And so she sat me down at the table and she tried to force me to eat a quesadilla.
That's not good.
And I'm anorexic, like I can't eat a quesadilla. I was hysterical. I was hysterical, and I couldn't eat it. And after that point, I knew that people were going to be watching me, so I was like, well, fuck it. Like, I had a friend who was bulimic, and she taught me how to do it, and I just started doing that. And I did that from probably the age of like 18, 19 till 23. And I wasn't like your standard case of bulimia, which I don't know if there's I was never like hospitalized or anything like that. So I would go sometimes months without doing it, and then I'd go months with doing it every day, and then I'd like, it was just not like, I don't know, maybe that's how, maybe that is standard.
But also, like, I don't really think that there ever is like a standard, from what I've learned, like, I don't think there is a standard case of like bulimia or even anorexia or a combination. Like, I think it's super different for everyone.
It was just so normalized in my life because I had friends taking diet pills, I had friends that were anorexic, I had friends making themselves throw up. It seemed just kind of like normal.
I had a friend who literally was like, it's not normal if you don't have an eating disorder. Like, it was so common in my group of friends, at least, that it was like weird if you didn't have an eating disorder. You grow up in a culture that normalizes it so much, like, it's so much easier to get away with it for so long. I remember when I would binge and purge sometimes, like, I would feel super healthy after. Like, good, like, everything's out, like, I'm good to go, like, I'm healthy, like. I still feel that way whenever, like, it happens to me. I still am like, all right, you cured yourself of all the shit you put in your body. Good job. I feel good now.
So then it got to a point sophomore year of college where I ended up like going on a crazy like bulimia binge, I guess. I was in a bad living situation, and I was going through this thing with this guy, my ex-boyfriend. First, I ended up making myself throw up, and I bust blood sockets in my eye. So that was the first thing that I was like, The second one,
That's weird.
the second one, I actually ended up making my throat bleed.
I've done that. That was the one I started crying and called my mom when I told her, because it was the second time that I like had purged, and there was blood everywhere. And I called my mom crying because I thought I was dying.
That's exactly the night that I called my parents, actually.
Really? Oh, shit.
I'm not gonna share the details of this story because I just need to respect my mother, but it did not go over well, the talk. I wasn't taken very seriously. I ended up going into therapy. My dad actually put me into therapy, and I went to therapy for 2 years. I went and saw a psychologist who was also a family practice psychologist and a dietitian. So she specializes in basically everything that I was struggling with. Her name is Heidi Lewin Miller, and I'll link her site below because she's the shit. She saved my life. Like, she saved my life 100 billion gazillion %. I would like probably kill myself without her. It took me a really long time to be able to actually talk about my eating disorder. I didn't talk about my eating disorder with my best friend since I was 11 until I'd been like in almost a year of therapy. Like, even though she like knew, we just didn't talk about it. It was so shameful because it's weird, and I think like a lot of you will probably relate. And Maddie was talking about this earlier, like, she like loves herself, right? Like, at the core, like, she loves herself, and like I love myself, and you know, I'm super passionate about like all the stuff that I'm doing. Such a contradiction to who I said that I was. There was so much shame attached to my eating disorder, because I claimed to be like this go-getter woman, you know, successful, powerful, hear me roar, and then I was binging and purging every night. Like, those don't go together. And I think that was like a really hard thing for me to admit to myself, that I didn't actually love myself the way that I was trying to pretend that I did. I went through 2 years of therapy, and I've been like in remission for like a good, you know, couple of years, but I still have those days like today. Like, I still have those days where my entire day is ruined and my entire self-worth is gone because I can't fit in a stupid dress from Forever 21 that I don't even like. I don't know what the moral of this vlog is besides just to like share that,
I don't think there is a moral, like for me at least, like going through this and like meeting you, and there's a bajillion people going through this and you don't know that they are probably, and you feel so alone, and there's all these little details that you're like, there's no way that anyone else is dealing with the same stuff. But I promise you there are. The point of this is to make everyone to share. At least for me, like I've gotten so much better and improved just from like you sharing. For some reason, knowing that you're not alone in this helps so much in getting out of it and like moving on in your life.
And take the shame out of it.
It takes the shame and it takes the blame that you put on yourself, because for me, most of it, like all that was happening, I immediately was just like associated it with a character flaw in myself. But the second you meet other incredible, amazing people that have had the same problem, you're like, oh, well, that's not a character flaw in them, so it can't be a character flaw in me.
That doesn't define them as a person.
Yeah.
They went through this experience, they experienced this thing, but that does not like usurp everything else that's good about them.
Yeah.
And I think when you're like stuck in it, you're like, oh, well, then everything about me is wrong if I'm dealing with this thing. We have all these different experiences in life that like therefore lead us to being like stronger people and able to like do things like this. Like now me and Maddie are able to share our story that like 3-4 years ago, like I never would have talked about this stuff.
No.
You know? Never. And now just even by talking about it in a public forum, like hopefully it just encourages you all to talk about it with people and to make it less of like a shameful, secretive thing and more just like, I'm struggling with this, just like people struggle with all kinds of things. And addiction, people struggle with anger, depression, like there's so many things that people struggle with, and this is just your particular thing. Once you actualize it for yourself and you make it a real thing and you stop having shame around it, then you can begin your healing process. Because the first step is to just admit that you are dealing with something, not that you have a problem. I think that's like terrible language. To admit that you need some healing, you know, to admit that there is something that you're missing within yourself where you don't just you haven't come to a place where you can fully like love and care for yourself in a way that is healthy. Our society is completely image obsessed, right? It's completely image obsessed. That's what everything's about. And yeah, it's fun. Like me and Maddie, like Maddie especially loves like dressing up and like and getting beautiful and buying clothes and doing all the things, and it's totally fun. I mean, if we have these
fashion.
like if we have these bodies, like why not enjoy them, you know, why not celebrate them? But at the same time, that can't define who you are, and I think it's a very thin line. I think the more that we can talk about stuff like this and the more that we can share our stories, the more we can be able to heal as a society. The human experience is hard, period, but we complicate it more by defining our worth by our looks, since our looks are temporary and they always change just like everything else about us. I have not found complete healing in this yet, so I'm not going to pretend like I have, but I think cutting up my dress was a good first step.
That was awesome.
I feel like that was a good first step.
I think the main thing, and that's why it's so great that or so important that we share this information and we share what we're going through, is just awareness. Like that is the most important step. It's not like a, what do you call that, cold turkey type thing. Like
it's not at all.
It's not. Like it's never.
It's a lifetime job.
Yeah, it's a lifetime thing.
Self-love is a lifetime occupation.
Yeah.
I remember like my sort of healing went like this. First it was like, fuck, I have a problem. Now it was like for a while.
That's like it's just like,
maybe a year.
It's like
2 is like, this is real, it's a problem, I need help.
Yeah.
So once you get the first 2, you're like so golden, you're so on your way. 3rd is like, oh, okay, I'm getting help. Now I'm gonna like tell people about it. I can't drink, that's a trigger for me.
Go out to dinner with anyone for like a long time. Like
because that's a trigger for me. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna be okay with like telling my roommates, can you hide your peanut butter? Because if you don't, I'm gonna eat it all and then throw it. I can't smoke weed with you guys. That's a trigger for me.
I can't eat Thai food sometimes. Like that was for a while.
Trigger.
I couldn't eat Thai food. Just not at all.
Yeah. Mine was late night eating. Immediately I'd binge.
Ordering
ice cream,
food.
binge. Peanut butter, immediately I'd binge. You gotta know your triggers. So then you identify your triggers and you're not afraid to tell people. So that's like the 3rd. And then I think the 4th is forgiveness. just forgiveness.
Yeah.
I remember my therapist, I used to binge, so I would be doing great, and then I'd go see her, and every time after I saw her, I would binge. Every night, every time I would have a relapse after I saw her, and I'd come back and I would say, Heidi, like, we just had this great thing, and then I relapsed, and she'd be like, that's totally fine. That's fine. You know, this is your eating disorder kind of resisting, right? Resisting the healing, you know, resisting your evolution to something more positive. And that's totally natural. And then you'll get over this, like, and then you get over that, you know, and you just need to be patient, even though it really sucks.
It's almost like it's this person that wants to like hold on to you. It's like holding on to you. And the second it sees that you don't need them anymore, it comes back like and just takes over you. So that's totally normal and totally fine.
Ed is a sneaky little motherfucker. I don't know if this works for everyone, but for me, and I told Maddie about the book, and it saved my life, and I think it's like helping Maddie a lot. It's called Life Without Ed, and I'll link it below, and then also Eating in the Light of the Moon, and I'll link that below. 2 books that Heidi made me read that helped me so much. Life Without Ed, it teaches you to anthropomorphize, which is my favorite word, your eating disorder, and you make it an actual person. Mine was a guy, it was this fucking dude, and whenever Ed would try to creep in my head, I would literally yell at him, like, shut the fuck up, Ed. I would close my door and I would yell at him. Like, once you're able to like take Ed outside of you and like treat it like this other thing, you can like turn to it and like fight it and like battle it, you know? And it's really empowering. And I suggest some of you guys try that too and read those books, because like that is what turned it around for me. When I could separate Ed from myself and be like, that's not my thought, like, I think I look great, Ed, like, fuck you. That's when everything like started becoming better.
Awesome. But
where's our light? We're losing everything.
We're losing light. Sorry, y'all.
Hold on, guys. You gotta see our faces.
The best part about it is that instead of having these thoughts and then associating them with yourself and your character, you start to realize that they're not you, and you stop blaming yourself about them, and it's so much easier to be kinder to yourself once you realize and differentiate Ed
from you.
What you start to hear, like, the thoughts as someone's voice telling you, don't eat that.
Or suck in your stomach, atlee. Haven't you had enough?
Haven't you had enough?
So whatever your Ed is, like, I just know mine was super sneaky. And once you're able to identify who your Ed is and how your Ed works, then that really helps too, because you can literally like call him out or her out and be like, no, like, that's not me. I would never say that. I would never think that. And it separates them from you, and it really helps you stand up for yourself in a way. I also found in my healing, there's no point in like looking back. So like, where did Ed come from? Whose fault is this but mine? Why did I have this? None of those thoughts are very helpful.
What's done is done. Like, what's happened?
No, blame never helps with any sort of healing. I don't know if there's anything more to really say besides the fact that like a lot of people struggle with body image issues.
More than you know.
More than you know, more than you think. You're so not alone. If you guys want to talk about anything, like, feel free to comment below. Any hateful people, like, you're done. This is a loving space, my channel. I hope this was helpful. I know we rambled a lot, but
good. For us, like, at least for me, I can't speak for you, but for me it felt good. You're further along this process than I am. This is all fairly new to me. Most of my friends, best friends, I still don't talk about this with them, and will never probably. It feels good. It's terrifying, and I'm getting better at it, and it's part of my journey. It's part of me now. So it feels good to talk about it, and if you have the opportunity or someone that you trust, you should do it. You're gonna cry. I cried. I was like screaming, crying the first time and shaking hysterically because it was the most terrifying thing I'd ever done in my entire life.
To tell someone.
To tell someone. My mom. I told my mom, and it was like the scariest shit I've ever had to deal with in my life. But it felt so good. And this feels good even.
Once you get it out of your body, it's a lot easier to deal with it.
Yeah. You don't have to tell the whole story. Just say a little bit, start a little bit at a time. Like,
you never know who you might help by talking about it. I think that we all go through lessons in our, like, trials and tribulations or contrasts in our life so that we can learn a lesson, so that we can help someone else. And this is just me and Maddie's lesson that we had to learn, and we're slowly progressing in our healing, so that we can continue to, you know, do things like this, and then hopefully one day be able to share from like a place of just like full wholeness. I think the key for me now where I am is to basically not focus at all on my body and my body image. That just can't be where I get my self-worth. And right now it's still such a point of sensitivity for me that I think I just need to not focus on it at all and focus instead on the things that are going really well for me. Maybe if you can do that, focus on the things in your life that are going really well, but also being cognizant of your healing at the same time.
The only thing I would have to add is it's awesome to, like, I'm stoked about doing this because I have for most of my life so far, I've always been the person that someone is like, I've had this, or like, and I'm like, my eyes, I'm the one that lights up and I'm like, me too. So it feels good that maybe I can sort of pass that gift on to someone else, at least one person, and I'll be super stoked.
You guys can follow up with us in our adventures. I'll tag both of our Instagrams below too, and if you ever want to talk about anything to do with this or need help and want to reach out, like, our doors are open to y'all.
Yeah. It helps us along the way too.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
Helps out.
Yeah, it helps. Yeah, I might need help too.
Together.
Maybe someone's further up, you know, up than me and has something to tell me about what I can do besides ripping up my dress. Thank you guys, and this was really fun for us. And yeah, I hope you guys get something out of it too.
Word.
Love you.